What up, YouTube? Hey, YouTube. Hey, YouTube. Hey, YouTube. Hopefully, y'all hear me in this video. Before I get to the point of why I'm making this live stream, which is to read the book I've been reading, The Enduring Life of Rest in Power, The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin. I just wanted to speak on something. So, I'm a bit irritated because, well, he hung up. I don't know if he gonna call later or if he gonna call at all, and it is what it is because I'm just over it. So I was having a conversation with a so-called friend. I'm pretty sure anyone who come across this video already know who I'm referring to without saying any names. But to make a long story short, I just get sick and tired of people who start shit or bring up shit, and then because you react aggressively, whether it's verbal or physical, whatever the situation is, they want to try to tell you and make so much excuses, but pretty much try to tell you how to react to shit. I'm the type of person where it doesn't matter what my age is, whatever your age is, or whatever the case may be. Don't start no shit, won't be no shit. You have to give respect to get it. And if you're not respecting me and you're being constantly disrespectful, it's an ongoing situation. I'm going to defend myself however I may choose. I don't give a fuck. Sorry, y'all. It's just irritating. Anyway, let me get to this book. So, I'm over here reading The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin. And I'm trying to figure out where I left off because I keep on ending the book because somebody called me or whatever the situation may be. And I keep ending the damn book. Now I gotta figure out where I left off at. I read that about them getting married. Okay, I read that about. Alright. Alright, so I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna say y'all. Like I said, y'all. I'll keep cutting off for whatever reason. So y'all gotta go back to where I left off at in the last video, so y'all don't be confused. I don't. All right, we were blessed, everyday people. Yes, not rich ever, but rich with love. For 5 years, we lived together as a family. But as time went by, okay, I think I read all of that. As time went by, Sabrina and I found ourselves on separate paths. Back then, Sabrina wasn't homebody. She was tightly focused on her education, her job, and her kids. Meanwhile, I had started playing softball more seriously, traveling to amateur tournaments across Florida and nearby states with my team. We were playing 3 or 4 nights a week in the Miami area and going for tournaments some weekends, all of which put a strain on our marriage. The kids used to call me Disneyland Dad because when I was at home, it was always a party, an event, a celebration. I didn't care much for sitting still. I had so much love for my kids. They were everything to me. I gave everything to my kids. I didn't give my all to my marriage, but it eventually came to an end. I moved out, meaning out of the house, not out of the family. Sabrina was a custodial parent, and the kids primarily lived with her. But Trayvon still spent as much time as he could with me. We let the kids share their time between us however they wanted. Whichever house they were in, they knew they were always welcome and deeply loved. One day when Trayvon was 9, we hit a home after he finished one of his youth football games in the park. Do you want something to eat? I asked as we drove home. No, he said he was too tired. When I got him home, I put some oil in a pan on the stove to fry some wings and French fries. But while the oil was heating up, Trayvon and I lay down in the bedroom and both of us fell asleep. I woke up to the smell of smoke. I ran to the kitchen and threw a towel over the burning pan to try to smother the fire, but grease splattered all over me, leaving third-degree burns on my lower extremities. I screamed out Trayvon, then I blacked out. Trayvon woke up and came running to the kitchen. He dragged me out of the burning kitchen. If he hadn't awakened, we might have both been dead. My son saved my life, and on the night of February 26, 2012, I, I wish I could have saved his. As time went on, I found out from Sabrina that Trayvon was having trouble at school. We sat down and discussed ways of correcting the issue. I have to admit, I was worried not about losing my child to the streets, but seeing the son we had raised become a young adult and forgetting about the values that we instilled in him. As soon as we found out about his suspension, we confronted Trayvon, he didn't look forward to because he knew how strict we were about certain things. But the truth is, I never thought Trayvon had come astray. His life wasn't out of control. He wasn't a bad kid. He was a teenager, and teenagers sometimes do unexpected things that wasn't an issue. But a reality I tried to keep in mind to keep from over interpreting um, his growing pains as something darker. Still, this was an important moment to interverse to make sure he stayed focused on his goals and dreams. I knew all too well what would happen when a young life gets derailed. He was in his junior year, and we encouraged him to focus on getting past the suspension and finishing up strong so he could go into his senior year with high expectations, ready to tackle the challenges ahead. We wanted so much for him to follow the same path as Gerard, who is already doing well in college. Recognize the mistakes you have made and let's correct them, I told him. You know you're not a bad kid. We know you're not going down a bad path, but we're going to cut off the things that are detrimental to your future. We're going to get things right. I was planning to drive up to Sanford a weekend to visit my girlfriend Brandy Green, and I knew from his previous trips that Trayvon liked visiting her in Sanford. so I decided to take him with me. I thought it would be good to get him away from whatever distractions he was experiencing as a teenager. The plan was for him to go up a couple of days early on on Tuesday, so he could spend some time with Brandy and her son Chad. He he regarded Trayvon as an older brother. I would drive up on Friday to join them when I got off from work. Give yourself a little me time, I told Trayvon when I dropped him off at the Greyhound station on Tuesday. Think about what you are going to do when you go back to school next week. Okay, Dad, he said, and turned to go into the bus station. I watched him walk away and felt that even with this struggle, things were going to be okay. It's a little hot, so I guess he, in between telling stories about Trayvon, then also talk about his own life. Yeah, some of these chapters are a bit kind of long. I first met Brandy Green 2 years earlier at a convention we were both attending on a Masonic organization whose mission was dedicated to unify understanding of God and the betterment of humanity. On the weekend of February 24, 2012, 2 years later, we were returning to the same convention in Orlando. Brandy worked as a juvenile detention officer in Orlando, supervising kids in trouble between the ages of 11 and 18. Kids locked up for fighting drugs, probation violations, prostitution, disobeying court orders, and other infractions. Some of the kids grew up without a mom or a dad. They were kids without supervision or guidance, looking for love and acceptance in the wrong places. Brandy knew troubled kids, and she knew that Trayvon wasn't one of them. When we arrived in Orlando on the Greyhound bus, Brandy was waiting for him in front of the station. You hungry? She asked, even though she already knew the answer. Trayvon was always hungry. They drove to Friar's Wings and Grill on West Orlando for the jumbo 25 wing special, wings, fries, a soda, the works. After lunch, they drove to Brandy's home at the retreat at Twin Lakes, a 3 bedroom, 1 car garage townhouse. The retreat would be familiar to anyone who spent time in southern or central Florida. It was a classic Florida subdivision right off the interstate that led straight to Orlando. It was a secluded and sunny place to live. By the time Trayvon hopped on the bus to Sanford, the retreat had suffered from foreclosures, and along with the foreclosures, burglaries. The community had reportedly been burglarized 8 times the year before, enough for the residents to establish a neighborhood watch with volunteer unarmed security guards patrolling the area. Their mandate was to call the police if they saw any suspicious activity. So I'm guessing, hmm, let me carry on before I give my opinion about that. Even though I usually visit Brandy in her Sanford townhouse about twice a month, I didn't know anything about any of that at the time. And neither did Brandy, for that matter. She worked in Orlando from 2 o'clock to 10:30 p.m. on a different schedule from her neighbors. She and her son kept to themselves and never knew that there had been burglaries in the neighborhood, much less a neighborhood crime watch. Brandy loved living in a retreat. It was quiet, great, gated, peaceful. Kids play outside. She never even noticed the foreclosures. Never saw a burglary. A burglar. Chad will be home later. Brandy told Trayvon before leaving for work that afternoon. Make yourself at home. Whatever you want in the refrigerator is all yours. When she returned that evening, Brandy found Trayvon in Chad's sleep. Chad was in his room. Trayvon was in the spare bedroom. Friday would be the start of a very big event for Orlando, the NBA All-Star Weekend. Brandy bought Trayvon and Chad tickets for one of the highlights of the weekend, a game featuring the best rookies and second-year players. That day, she picked the boys up after the game and drove to meet me at Orlando's DoubleTree Hotel, where the Mason, the Masons, whatever the fuck, convention would be held. I knew Trayvon was in great hands with Brandy because they got along from the first time they met. When they arrived to the DoubleTree and I saw Trayvon's big smile, it made my day. Throughout the weekend, as we always did, Trayvon and I talked about his school suspension, about what he would do when he returned to school that following Monday, and about his future. What do you want to do with your life? I asked him at a hotel. Well, I want to go to college, but I know I had to work hard to get there, he said. He said he wanted to go to the University of Miami or Florida A&M University. He wanted to go to aviation school, but was also interested in Florida A&M, one of the largest historically black colleges and universities in the country. Today, the pieces of those final few days came back to me like the prelude to a nightmare. As the time though, at the time though, it seemed so normal. Brandy and I went to the convention on Friday, and Trayvon and Chad ordered room service in the DoubleTree hotel room we booked for them to stay in that day. We went to the room and checked on him. He was wearing cargo shorts with multiple pockets, flip flops, a t-shirt, and as always, his hoodie. I sat with him a while and talked more about his problems at school, his slip-up grades, and his suspension, how he needed to get down to business when he returned to school if he wanted to go to college. Because if you don't get into college, what are you going to do? I asked him. He mentioned his cousins who were working at the port of Miami loading cargo ships. That if I don't get into college, I would get a job at the port. He said some of the guys working there make $150,000 a year. Coming out of high school and going straight into a workforce shouldn't be your goal, I told him. You should aim higher than that. You're only 17. You only have a couple of teenage years left. And your expectations should be getting higher as you get older. Don't you don't want to get stuck in Miami all your life. You need to take whatever chance you have to see the world. The Port of Miami is a great way to earn a living, but I wanted more for my kid. I know that he said on that Friday evening after the convention was done for a day, the four of us drove back to Sanford. We dropped Chad off at his grandmother's house because his father was taking him to a youth football game the next day. And Brandy, Trayvon, and I went back to her house and went to sleep. The next day, the three of us drove back to Orlando for the convention. And we sent Trayvon back up to the hotel room where he went back to sleep. Later that afternoon, we went to watch Chad play his football game at a public park 30 minutes outside Sanford. When Chad's football game ended, Brandy and I headed to the surprise birthday dinner for one of her friends from high school, leaving Trayvon and Chad and my nephew Steve, who everybody calls Booby. Booby had borrowed his sister-in-law's car so that he could drive Trayvon and Chad wherever they wanted to go. We felt the kids were safe with Booby, who was 21 and had a day off from his job and was happy to take care of the boys. Neither of them were any trouble, and later Booby would say that he understood why some of his friends called Trayvon Mouse, because he wasn't afraid of anything, because he could fit in any group, and because most of all he was just so calm and quiet. Shit, I tried. I ain't gonna lie, I tried, but I don't know. I don't. Me personally, in my high school days, around that time, I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong, I had people that I was cool with. I had people that I seen as friends, but I mostly hung around the girls. I really didn't have too many male people that I really like. I'm not saying I didn't have any male friends because I did, or I had people I was cool with, but people that I've really seen as friends were mostly the girls. But I guess people like me because I was goofy at times. I said what was on my mind. I wasn't afraid to say what was on my mind. I don't know. Anyhow, we gave the boys money for food in the movie, but Chad was tired after the game, so Booby decided they'd skip a movie and just relax at Brandy's townhouse. They went to the garage where Brandy had set up some furniture and the television so the boys could have a place to hang out. Booby and Trayvon played the card game tongue for $1 around while watching movies and calling friends on their cell phones. By the time we returned after midnight, everybody was asleep. Chad in his room, Trayvon in the spare room, and Booby in the garage. The next morning, Sunday, February 26th, Brandy and I went to visit some of my friends, leaving Trayvon and Chad with Booby. Around 11 a.m., Booby wanted something to drink, so he searched his cell phone for nearby stores on Google Maps, and the closest to pop up was a 7-Eleven at 1125 Reinhardt Road, no more than a half mile from Brandy's apartment. I'm going to the store to get something to drink, Booby told Trayvon. I'll ride with you, Trayvon told Booby. Trayvon put on his white Air Jordans, beige jeans, a sweatshirt, and his gray hoodie. The cousins drove to a 7-Eleven where Booby went inside and bought a soda while Trayvon stayed in the car. Then Booby drove Trayvon back to Brandy's house. It was now 11:30 a.m. Booby gave him a hug inside the car and said, "Okay, bro, see you next time. I'm in Miami." Love, said Booby. Hold on. Love, said Booby. Love, repeated Trayvon. And he got out of the car and walked back into the townhouse. Somewhere between 5 and 6 p.m. while they were watching the pregame show for the All-Star game, Trayvon asked Chad if he wanted anything from the store. "I'm going to walk to the 7-Eleven," he told Chad, meaning the 7-Eleven where he and Booby had driven earlier that day. Chad said he wanted some Skittles. Trayvon left the townhouse and walked for about 10 minutes to the 7-Eleven. As always, his earbuds were in his ears and he was surely listening to his music or talking to a friend on his phone. He arrived at the 7-Eleven shortly before 6:23 p.m. according to the store's security camera, which showed him inside the store in his hoodie buying a can of Arizona watermelon, not iced tea like they tried to say, claiming that they didn't want to sound racist. He was getting a Arizona watermelon fruit juice in a bag of Skittles. Now I wish that I had food stamps because I'll show y'all exactly what he was getting. I really do wish I could go to the store right now and pretty much mimic everything that he got, and also wear a gray hoodie and pants and stuff, so I could pretty much demonstrate exactly what he is wearing and when he went and what he went to the store to get. But anywho, then he left the store to walk back toward the house, talking to his girlfriend Rachel until a few seconds before 7:16 p.m. when the call was suddenly disconnected as he walked through the retreat at Twin Lakes. It's about to get deep, y'all, so bear with me. Trayvon was outside, which was where he always loved to be. It was raining and someone was watching. "Hey, we had some break-ins in my neighborhood," the neighborhood watchman told the Sanford Police Department dispatcher. "And there's a real suspicious guy. It's Retreat View Circle. The best address I can give you is 111 Retreat View Circle. This guy looks like he's up to no good or he's on drugs or something. It's raining and he's just walking around looking about." "Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?" asked the dispatcher. "He looks black," replied the neighborhood watchman. So we all know that with that being said, Tracy Martin telling his side of things from his understanding, we all know that that was pretty much George Zimmerman speaking to the dispatcher. And George Zimmerman, I guess, is neighborhood watch. We returned to Brandy's townhouse at 10:30 that night and immediately checked on the kids. Chad was asleep upstairs in his bedroom, but there was no sign of Trayvon. He went to the store, Chad said once we awakened him. "Store?" I said. It was late for a trip on foot to the store. "How long has he been gone?" Chad had lost track of the time. "I don't know," he said. Brandy checked all of the doors. The sliding glass door to the backyard was unlocked. There was no sign of Trayvon. Inside or outside. She locked the sliding door. We looked around. Everything seemed secure. I called Trayvon's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. I called my nephew's booby cell phone. It went straight to voicemail too. Well, maybe they decided to go to the movie when they turned off their phones, I thought, or even more likely their phone batteries were dead. I kept calling both of their phones and they kept getting both of their voicemails. I had been up since 3 or 4 that morning. As a 17-year-old out past 11 p.m. again, normal, surely. Trayvon would be back soon. And since he had a key to Brandy's house, he would let himself back inside. I took a hot shower. I lay down in the bed and would soon fast asleep. At 7 a.m., Brandy woke up and immediately went to check on Trayvon. She checked Chad's room, nothing. Trayvon's room, still nothing. Downstairs, the kitchen, the garage, nothing. Nothing, nothing. Baby, she said, waking me up. Trayvon's not here. Now, I was worried. Again, I called his cell phone. Again, it went straight to voicemail. I called Sabrina in Miami and told her that Trey hadn't come home. And she told me to call Booby, who would surely know where Trayvon had gone. I called Booby's cell and finally he answered, "Where are you?" I asked. "Man, I'm at home." He said, "Where's Trey?" "He should be home," he said, meaning Brandy's townhouse. "What time did you see him last?" "I left him at the house at 11:30 in the morning," Booby said. I began babbling. "Booby, he's not here. He hasn't been here. Not since early morning. Not since early evening. I'm sorry." I called another nephew, Kevin, who lives in nearby Oviedo. I've never been to Florida, so I don't know how to pronounce most of these places. Sort of thinking, now praying, that maybe Trayvon had gone up to visit him. He hadn't seen Trayvon either. We woke up Chad and began grilling him. And he kept telling us the same thing. He was going to the store to get something to drink, and I asked him to give me to get some skills from me. Brandy began making calls. She called her job at a juvenile detention center in Orlando. Had someone named Trayvon Martin been arrested? No, she was told. She called the Orange County Sheriff Office and asked the same question again. They said nobody arrested. I called 911 and said I need to file a missing persons report. They asked me all of the particulars: name, age, description, last seen, etc., etc. I told the dispatcher he's not from this area and he had just turned 17. "Okay, sir, we're going to dispatch somebody out there," the operator said. I went outside to wait, expecting Trayvon to come walking up at any moment with the explanation where he'd been and what he'd been doing all night. Instead, within 30 minutes, several police officers came driving up to Brandy's townhouse. Oh, wow. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. It was still early morning when Detective Chris Sereno, an investigator for the Sanford Police Department General Investigative Section, introduced himself and the two officers who came with him. Sereno was a stocky guy who looked like a television detective, close chopped, dark hair, sunken eyes that seemed to have seen pretty much everything, and a button-down white shirt with a tie that was loosened at the neck. I gave him all the details that my son Trayvon hadn't come home from the store the night before, that he wasn't from this area, and that he didn't have a driver's license or other form of identification. Detective Sereno asked me if I had a recent photograph of Trayvon. Of course I did. I told him and showed him the picture of my digital camera that I had taken of him a week before. The detective looked at it and then went outside to his car and returned with the folder. It had started drizzling by then, and he asked if we would all go into the townhouse. We sat down at the kitchen table. I'm going to show you a photo, and you tell me if this is your son. He said in a deep, gravelly voice. He pulled out a picture and laid it on the table in front of me. Is this your son? He said. I looked at the picture, and today, 4 years and a turning later, I still find it hard to describe how I felt. My mind spun, my chest ached, my eyes filled over with tears, and I began sobbing and screaming. Later, Brandy, who was upstairs, told me that the scream was like nothing she had ever heard before. A blood curdling shriek that shook the house and could probably be heard in all 263 townhouses at the retreat at Twin Lakes and the blocks miles worlds around. The picture burnt a hole in my heart. It showed my 17-year-old son as lifeless as a broken rag doll on the wet grass no more than 100 yards from Brandy's townhouse. One of his legs was folded back on itself, and his eyes were slightly open, staring into a stranger's camera. The sweatshirt he wore beneath his hoodie was stained blackish red with blood from the gunshot wound to his heart. Trayvon was dead. By the time I regained my composure, the police department chaplain had arrived, but I couldn't be consoled. Not now, not over this. I asked the detective what happened. All he said was that there had been an altercation, that Trayvon had been shot, and that the person who shot him has made an assertion of self-defense. He asked for my cooperation, patience, and understanding. No one, it seemed, had been arrested. I knew immediately that the killer wasn't black, and that is where it all began. So clearly, Dan waited all day. Trayvon just out deceased. The police had already handled everything. They questioned all the people that he last spoken to, or whatever the case may be. Come to find out, a whole day later, they found out very bits and pieces of what happened. And the crazy thing about it is, I don't ever had Paramount to find this documentary, because it says it's a docu series. This is a really sad book already. So yeah, throughout the book, they pretty much speak on they speak on how their lives growing up, what they both went through, and pretty much Trayvon being born, him growing up, and just certain stuff about him from the time he was born leading up to his death. It's just crazy. It really is. I had to get this book. I had it on Kindle, but whatever happened to that account happened. So I had to get this book. And like I said, I do want to watch some documentaries and whatever else I could find. I just don't have Paramount and or anything that really has documentaries unless I just watch whatever's on YouTube. But within and of course you got videos. And you got videos describing what people believe has happened. A whole bunch. And although y'all know most of from what I'm reading to y'all while reading this book, and I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all who may come across this video already know the story about Trayvon Martin. I would like to keep it alive and continue speaking on it. Whether it's by reading this book, watching documentaries and videos, or if I decide to look on the Wikipedia page, which I'm about to show right now. I'm pretty sure I probably told this story in previous videos, but it is what it is. I don't care if I gotta repeat myself. Um, his name was Trayvon Benjamin Martin. That's a picture of him at the Experience Ovation Camp in 2009. He was born February 5th, 1990, in Miami, Florida. He died February 26th, 2012, at the age of 17 in Sanford, Florida. His cause of death was a homicide, gunshot wound. He is in Day Memorial Park, and he has a alma mater in Miami Carroll City Senior High School, Dr. Michael M. Crop Senior High School. Okay. If you look like this in the All right. Although I'm going to continue reading this book throughout the time, because I had so many books I need to get through. I ain't never get through most of the books, the R. Kelly book and any other book that I may have read. I just decided I'm gonna just stick to reading Trayvon. Um, but yeah, he was a 17-year-old African American from Miami Gardens, Florida, who was fatally shot in Sanford, Florida, by George Zimmerman, a 28-year-old Hispanic American. Martin had accompanied his father to visit his father's fiancee at her townhouse in the retreat at Twin Lakes in Sanford, what we just read. On the evening of February 26th, Martin was walking back to his fiance's house from I'm gonna just say 7-Eleven. Zimmerman, a member of the community watch, saw Martin and reported him to the Sanford police as suspicious. Several minutes later, an altercation happened and Zimmerman fatally shot Trayvon in the chest. Zimmerman was injured during the altercation with Trayvon. He said he shot Martin in self-defense and was not charged at the time. The police said there was no evidence to refute his claim of self-defense, and Florida's stand your ground law prohibited them from arresting or charging him. Where the fuck did this stand your ground law even come from in the first place? I'm gonna have to read up on that. Let me see. Yeah, this might be a lot to read. I'm definitely going to have to read up on this. It's just a lot. At least I ain't going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read the important parts relating to this story. But yeah, he was. So he said he was injured during the altercation with Martin. He said he shot Martin in self-defense and was not charged at the time. The police said there was no evidence. Okay, and Florida's stand ground law prohibited them from arresting and charging him. After national media focused on the incident, Zimmerman was eventually charged and tried, but a jury acquitted him of second-degree murder and manslaughter in July 2013. Following the death of rallies, marches, and protests were held across the United States. On March 2012, hundreds of students at his high school held a walkout in support of him. Online petition calling for a full investigation and prosecution of Zimmerman garnered 2.2 million signatures. Also in March, the media coverage surrounding Martin's death became the first story of 2012 to be featured more than the presidential race, which was underway at the time. A national debate about racial profiling and stand your ground laws is ensued. Then Governor of Florida Rick Scott appointed a task force to examine the state's self-defense laws. Martin's life was scrutinized by the media and bloggers. The name Trayvon was tweeted more than 2 million times in the 30 days following the shooting. More than 1,000 people attended the viewing of his remains the day before his funeral. Okay, so they had a viewing before the funeral, which was held on March 3rd in Miami. He was buried in Day Memorial Park, north in Miami. A memorial was dedicated to Trayvon at the Goldsboro Westside Historical Museum of Black History Museum in Sanford in July 2013. Speaking of that, I know some people is probably interested in doing things like this, and some probably won't find interest in it. But watching all these YouTube videos where people be visiting grave sites and telling the stories of the people who grave sites they visit, they be leaving flowers and stuff like that. And I always thought about one day going to celebrity grave sites and doing stuff like that, leaving flowers and whatever, just out of respect. And I see a lot of people on YouTube going to Trayvon Martin's grave. I've seen a few stories. I mean, a lot of this is stuff I already read. You know, I'm gonna do this a little bit later. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna go back and forth with reading the book and finding other things. Y'all like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, be notified. Y'all know.